I exposed her perfect ex as a fraud, shattered her fantasy in public, filed for divorce, froze our accounts, and finally reclaimed my freedom now. That day, the house felt different somehow, like the air itself was charged with something I couldn't quite put my finger on. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone with that particular expression women get when they're about to start a conversation you definitely don't want to have. "We need to talk," she said without even looking up. Classic opener. I knew I was in for it, but I had no idea just how deep this rabbit hole was about to go. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat down across from her, trying to read the situation. "What's on your mind?" That's when she launched into it. It started off innocent enough, talking about how we'd gotten into a routine, how things felt stale. Standard relationship maintenance conversation, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. "Remember when we first started dating?" she asked, finally putting her phone down. "You used to surprise me, take me on adventures. You were so different." I nodded, wondering where this was heading. "Yeah, we had some good times. We still do." She shook her head with a look of disappointment that cut right through me. "No, it's not the same. You've gotten comfortable, complacent." Then came the first comparison. My ex used to plan these amazing, spontaneous trips. He'd just show up with packed bags and we'd drive somewhere completely random for the weekend. I felt my jaw tighten, but I kept my voice steady. "That sounds nice, but we've got responsibilities now. Bills, commitments." "See, that's exactly what I mean," she said, getting more animated. "He never made excuses. He just did things. He was passionate about everything, not just sitting around watching TV every night." The way she said he, with that dreamy look in her eyes, made my stomach turn. This wasn't casual reminiscing. This was deliberate. "Are we really going to sit here and compare our marriage to your past relationships?" I asked, keeping my tone level but firm. She rolled her eyes. "I'm not comparing. I'm just saying there are things I miss, things that made me feel alive. You know, he used to write me poetry, leave little notes in my car. When's the last time you did something romantic like that?" Every word felt like a small knife being twisted. But what really got me was how she was enjoying this. There was something almost cruel in the way she painted this picture of her amazing ex, while tearing down everything we'd built together. "I show you I love you in my own ways," I said. "I work hard to provide for us. I'm here every night. I'm faithful. I support your dreams." "That's just basic husband stuff," she dismissed with a wave of her hand. "He made me feel special, like I was the only woman in the world." I could feel the heat rising in my chest, but I wasn't about to lose my cool. Not yet. "And how did that work out for him? Last I checked, you married me, not him." That seemed to hit a nerve. Her eyes flashed with anger and defiance. Maybe I'm starting to wonder if I made the right choice. The room went dead silent. You could hear the clock ticking on the wall, the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. Those words hung in the air like smoke from a fired gun. I set my beer down slowly, very deliberately. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," she said, crossing her arms. He knew how to make a woman feel desired. He had ambition, drive. He wasn't content to just exist. "So, what exactly are you saying here?" I asked, my voice getting quieter, which anyone who knows me will tell you is when you should really start paying attention. She leaned forward. For a moment I thought she might back down, realize she'd gone too far. Instead, she doubled down. "I'm saying, maybe if you put in half the effort he did, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Why can't you be more like him?" There it was. The question that would change everything. Why can't you be more like him? I stood up slowly, looking down at this woman I'd promised to love and honor, who was now using our marriage as a weapon to cut me down. "You know what, you're absolutely right." She blinked, clearly not expecting that response. What? "You're right. I can't be like him. I won't be like him. But I'll tell you what I can do." I picked up my beer and headed toward the kitchen. "I can make sure you get exactly what you're asking for." "What's that supposed to mean?" she called after me. I turned back with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Don't worry about it. You'll figure it out soon enough." As I walked away, I could hear her sputtering behind me, probably wondering what had just happened. She thought she was playing a game, pushing my buttons to get a reaction. What she didn't realize was that she'd just crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. I'd spent years being the stable, reliable husband, the one who came home every night, who worked hard, who treated her with respect and dignity, and her response was to throw it all back in my face while pining for some loser from her past. Well, If she wanted to play games, I was about to show her what happens when you challenge someone who doesn't play to lose. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. Came downstairs in her robe, made coffee, asked if I wanted eggs, like she hadn't just spent the previous evening demolishing our marriage one comparison at a time. I watched her move around the kitchen, humming a tune, completely oblivious to the storm she'd unleashed. Or maybe she knew exactly what she'd done and was testing how I'd react. "Sleep well?" I asked, tone neutral. "Like a baby," she said without looking at me. "You were tossing and turning, though. Something bothering you?" The audacity was almost impressive. "Just thinking," I said, taking a sip of coffee. She finally turned around, leaning against the counter with a concerned expression that might have fooled me 6 months ago. "Look, about last night. I think you misunderstood what I was trying to say. Here we go. The backtrack, the gaslighting, the classic you misunderstood routine." "Really? Because it seemed pretty clear to me. You compared me to your ex-boyfriend for 20 minutes straight and then asked why I couldn't be more like him." She waved her hand dismissively. "I wasn't comparing you guys. I was just reflecting on different relationship styles. You're being way too sensitive about this." "Sensitive," I repeated slowly. "That's an interesting choice of words. Well, aren't you? I can't even share my thoughts and feelings without you getting all defensive and weird about it." I set my coffee cup down and really looked at her. This woman I'd shared my life with for years was rewriting history in real time, making me the villain for not appreciating her honesty. "So, let me get this straight," I said. "You spent the evening telling me how much better another man was at being romantic, passionate, and making you feel special. Then you asked why I couldn't be more like him. And now I'm the problem for taking that exactly the way any reasonable person would." She sighed like I was a difficult child. "You're twisting my words. I was just being honest about things I miss from previous relationships. Couples are supposed to communicate, right? Communication, sure. But there's a difference between communication and using someone else as a weapon." Her face hardened. "A weapon? Really? That's dramatic even for you." "Tell me more about him," I said, catching her completely off guard. "What? Your ex. The one with all the passion and romance. Tell me more about this perfect relationship you had." She blinked, clearly not expecting this direction. "Why would you want to hear about that?" "Because apparently I need to learn from the master. You said he knew how to make a woman feel special. I'm curious about his techniques." I could see the wheels turning. She thought she'd won something, that she'd finally gotten through to me. The eager way she leaned forward told me everything about her real motives. "Well, he was just so spontaneous," she began, eyes lighting up. "Like this one time he showed up at my work with a picnic basket and we drove to a secluded lake. We spent the whole afternoon talking and laughing." "Sounds romantic," I said evenly. "What else?" "He was passionate about everything. His career, his hobbies, me. When he loved something, he gave it everything. There was this intensity about him that was just intoxicating." The way she said intoxicating made my skin crawl, but I kept my expression neutral. "What did he do for work?" "He was in sales. High-end stuff, always traveling, meeting new people. Amazing stories from business trips. Successful guy then." "Oh yeah, definitely. Drove a gorgeous sports car, always wore expensive suits. He knew how to live, you know." I nodded thoughtfully. "And you guys were together how long?" "About 2 years. Best 2 years of my life, honestly." She caught herself too late. "I mean, before I met you, of course." "Of course. What happened? Why didn't you marry this perfect guy?" Her expression shifted, became guarded. "It just didn't work out. People change, situations change." That's pretty vague for someone so eager to share details about picnics and sports cars. "Look, why are we even talking about this? The point is, I'm trying to help you understand what I need in our relationship." And there it was. The manipulation laid bare. She wasn't sharing feelings to improve our marriage. She was using her ex as a benchmark to make me feel inadequate. "Right," I said. "You're just trying to help me be more like the guy who was so perfect you couldn't make it work with him." "That's not fair, isn't it? You spent last night painting a picture of some romantic hero, then told me I should be more like him. Now you're acting like I'm crazy for pointing out that if he was so amazing, you'd probably still be with him." She crossed her arms defensively. "You don't understand. It's complicated." "I'm sure it is. Most things are when you're not getting the whole story." "What's that supposed to mean?" I stood, put my coffee cup in the sink, and turned back with a smile I knew would unnerve her. "Nothing at all. Just thinking out loud. "You're acting weird," she said, suspicion creeping into her voice. "Am I? Or am I just finally listening to what you've been trying to tell me?" Before she could respond, I headed for the door. "I've got some errands to run. Don't wait up." "Where are you going?" she called. "Got some research to do." As I drove away, I saw her in the rearview mirror standing in the doorway, probably wondering what had just happened. She'd wanted psychological warfare to reshape me into her fantasy. What she didn't realize was that she just handed me everything I needed to turn the game around on her. She wanted me to be more like her ex. Fine. But first, I was going to find out exactly who this guy really was. It's amazing what you can discover when you actually look. She'd given me enough details that tracking him down was easier than expected. Social media is a beautiful thing when you know how to use it. His name was Brad. Of course it was Brad. Within 2 hours, I had a complete picture of this romantic hero she'd been shoving down my throat. Brad, the successful salesman now working at a used car lot, driving a 10-year-old sedan with a dented bumper. The high flyer living in a studio apartment and posting photos of microwave dinners on Instagram. And the cherry on top, court records, multiple arrests for fraud, bankruptcy, 3 restraining orders from 3 different women. I sat in my car outside a coffee shop scrolling through page after page, feeling a mix of vindication and disgust washing over me. This was the man she'd held up as the gold standard. My phone buzzed. A text from her, "Where are you? Dinner's ready." I stared at the message, then typed back, "On my way. We need to talk." When I walked through the door, she'd set the table with the good plates. Candles were lit, wine was poured. She'd even changed into the dress I bought her last Christmas. "What's all this?" I asked. "I felt bad about this morning," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "I thought we could have a nice dinner and talk things through properly." I sat down, noting how she'd positioned herself perfectly in the candlelight, everything calculated. "This looks great," I said, cutting into the steak. "You know, I did some thinking today about what you said." Her face brightened. "Really?" "Yeah, about being more like your ex." "I realized you're absolutely right." She practically glowed. "I'm so glad you understand. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I just want that spark again." "Totally understand. Which is why I decided to look into this guy, get some inspiration from the master himself." Her fork stopped halfway to her mouth. "You... what?" "Well, if I'm going to model myself after him, I figured I should do my research. You gave me enough details. Finding him wasn't hard." The color drained from her face. "You looked him up?" "Oh yeah. Very thorough research. Amazing what you can find these days." I took another bite while she sat frozen. "Brad seems like quite the character. You had no right..." "To what? To learn about the man you've been using as a weapon against our marriage? The guy you've been throwing in my face for weeks?" I set my fork down and looked her dead in the eyes. "The convicted fraud who's been arrested 6 times in the last 5 years." She went white. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Come on. 3 restraining orders. Bankruptcy. Currently selling used cars for minimum wage. This is the successful businessman you've been pining for? Those records must be wrong, or it's a different person." I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table, his current mugshot glowing on the screen. "Different person? Looks exactly like the guy in all those romantic photos you still have saved." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. "How did you..." "Please. You're not exactly subtle." She pushed back from the table and stood quickly. "You don't understand. He wasn't always like that. When we were together, he was different." "Different how? Less criminal?" "Because according to police reports, he was arrested twice while you were dating. Once for check fraud, once for assault. The assault was a misunderstanding. And the checks?" She didn't answer, just wrapped her arms around herself. "Here's what I think happened," I continued, voice calm. "You dated a charming con artist who swept you off your feet with other people's money. When it fell apart, you moved on. But instead of being grateful you dodged a bullet, you spent years romanticizing the fake life he sold you." "It wasn't fake," she whispered. "The way he made me feel was real. The way he made you feel was purchased with stolen credit cards and lies. Every spontaneous trip, every expensive dinner, paid for by his victims." Tears rolled down her cheeks, but they were the tears of someone whose fantasy was being destroyed. "And now," I said, standing slowly, "you want me to compete with a memory that never existed. You want me to be more like a criminal living in a studio apartment posting sad dinner photos. Stop, she said, voice breaking. Stop what? Telling the truth? You started this, remember? You're the one who wanted comparisons. I stepped closer and looked her in the eyes. I work an honest job. I pay my bills. I've never been arrested, never hurt anyone, never stolen anything. I come home to you every night. I'm faithful. I treat you with respect. And your response is to tell me I should be more like a convicted felon. I didn't know about all that stuff, didn't you? Or did you just choose not to look because you liked a fantasy better than reality? She couldn't answer. We both knew the truth. So here's what's going to happen, I said quietly. You're going to stop comparing me to other men. You're going to stop using your past as a weapon, and you're going to decide whether you want to be married to me or married to a ghost who never really existed. Of course I want to be married to you. Do you? Because everything you've said lately suggests otherwise. She reached for me. I stepped back. I need some air. When I come back, we're having a real conversation about where this marriage is heading. No more games, just honesty. Where are you going? Don't worry. I'm not going to steal any cars or write bad checks. I'm just going to think about whether I want to stay married to someone who thinks I should be more like a criminal. The door closed softly behind me, leaving her alone with the ruins of her fantasy. The next few days were tense. She tried to pretend everything was normal, but I could see the wheels turning. She'd lost the moral high ground and knew it. Friday evening, she appeared in my office doorway dressed to kill. Short black dress, heels, perfect makeup. I'm going out with the girls tonight, she announced. Haven't seen them in forever. Which girls? Just some friends from work. That new rooftop place downtown. Something in her tone set off alarm bells, but I kept it neutral. Sounds fun. What time will you be home? Not sure. Probably late. Don't wait up. She lingered, waiting for me to object. When I just nodded and went back to my laptop, disappointment flashed across her face. 2 hours later, the text started, then photos of her and the girls looking tipsy, normal girls' night stuff. Then the call at 11:30 p.m. Hey, babe, she slurred, music thumping in the background. Having fun? Oh yeah, so much fun. You know what's crazy though? What's crazy? Brad's here. Can you believe the odds? The odds were approximately 0. Wow, small world, I said calmly. You were totally wrong about him. He looks great, really put together. Been telling us about his new business ventures. Business ventures, cute. Sounds like he's doing well. He is. And he's been asking about you. Wondering how we're doing as a couple. I told him we've been having some rough patches. Transparent as glass. That's nice of him to ask. Silence. Then, is that all you have to say? What would you like me to say? I don't know. Maybe that you care your wife is having drinks with her ex. Are you planning to do something I should be concerned about? That's not the point. You don't even seem to care. 20 minutes later, a photo arrived, her and Brad at the bar, his arm around her waist, both smiling. Caption, reminiscing about old times. I stared at it, then got dressed, sharp, business casual. If she wanted a show, she'd get one. Just not the one she expected. The rooftop bar was predictably pretentious. I spotted them immediately in the very important person corner. Conversation stopped when I approached. Hey everyone, I said with a big smile. Hope I'm not interrupting. Her face cycled through surprise, panic, guilt, defiance. What are you doing here? When my wife sends photos of herself cuddled up with her ex, I figured I should come say hello, be social. I turned to Brad and offered my hand. You must be the famous Brad. I've heard so much. He shook it warily. Nice to meet you, man. She's told me a lot about you too. I bet. All good things, I hope. Brad's eyes darted. She's been telling me about your successful sales career. Must be doing well to afford a place like this. My wife jumped in. Brad was just telling us about his new company. Really? I smiled wider. What kind of company? Silence. Brad looked like a deer in headlights. It's still in development, he mumbled. Of course it is. I'm sure it'll be more legitimate than your last few ventures. The table froze. I think there's been a misunderstanding, Brad started. No misunderstanding. I did thorough research. I pulled out my phone. Want me to show everyone your LinkedIn or skip straight to the criminal background check? Brad stood abruptly. I should go. So soon? We were just getting acquainted. He practically ran for the exit. The great romantic hero fleeing like the coward he was. My wife stared, mouth open. "What the hell was that?" she hissed. I sat in Brad's empty chair and signaled the waitress. "That was me being more like your ex, just like you asked. He's a liar who runs when confronted with truth and abandons women when things get uncomfortable. How am I doing so far?" The table was dead silent. "You're embarrassing me," she whispered. "Am I?" "Because I thought I was following your advice perfectly." One of her friends leaned in. "Wait, this is the ex you've been saying he should be more like?" "That's the one. Business model, check fraud and identity theft. Currently unemployed, studio apartment, sad microwave dinners." "Stop it right now," my wife snapped. "Stop what? Telling the truth? You brought him here. You sent the photo. You made it public. I'm just providing context." I looked around the table. "Ladies, quick question. If your husband came home every night, worked hard, stayed faithful, treated you with respect, would you tell him he needed to be more like a convicted criminal?" Uncomfortable shuffling. That's what I thought. I stood, dropped cash for everyone's drinks. The difference between me and Brad? When I leave, I walk away with my dignity intact. I looked at my wife in the eye one last time. When you decide you want your actual husband instead of a fantasy con artist, you know where to find me. I walked out to a stunned table and a flood of whispered questions she couldn't answer. She came home at 3 a.m., hoping I was asleep. I wasn't. "We need to talk," she said from the bedroom doorway. "Do we? Because earlier tonight you seemed busy reminiscing with your criminal ex." "He's not a criminal. He ran the second I mentioned court records. Innocent people don't sprint." She sat on the bed, defeated. "You humiliated me in front of my friends. I told the truth in front of your friends. If that felt humiliating, ask yourself why." Silence, then quiet crying. "So what happens now?" she asked. "Relief," I said. "Now you decide. Apologize. Commit to respect and honesty. Never mention another man again, or keep living in fantasy land. But whatever you choose, you live with the consequences." The next week was textbook emotional manipulation, tears, gifts, seduction attempts. But the mask had slipped too far. A week later, she came home glowing. "I ran into Brad today. He apologized for running off. Said you caught him off guard. He's actually doing great now. And he has this amazing real estate opportunity. He asked if we'd like to invest." I actually laughed. "He's trying to scam us right now, and you're considering it? You don't understand. He's changed." That was the moment I knew it was over. "You're right," I said, standing. "Everything is a fight with me. I fight against disrespect, against being compared to criminals, against having my marriage weaponized. I'm done fighting." "Where are you going?" "To call my lawyer back. Turns out I do want that divorce." She begged, promised the world. Too late. 3 months later, the papers were signed. Last I heard, she was dating another successful businessman with a sports car and expensive tastes. I wish them luck. They'll need it. As for me, I learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes the best way to be more like someone else is to be nothing like them at all, and to walk away the moment someone shows you they value criminals over character. Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, thank you. Feel free to like, subscribe, or check the 2 videos I picked for you. I'll be waiting in the next story. See you soon.